Hey guys, I feel kind of obligated to start this off with oh, best deck, oh yeah, ooh, or I don't know, something along those lines. Um, Flash here. First off, my bad if this video isn't the best production wise, as it's my first video and all. But Today we're gonna do two things. Firstly, an introduction to myself, and secondly, my side decking patterns with X-Saber, and just generally talking about what I think is the correct side for my current list and all the possible options of cards that we could play. So this is a portion of the people on Team on the Grind, the team that I'm a part of. That's me and my goofy self. That's Jackson. He's one of the owners of the team. But I play against Jackson like so much throughout the week, and he's a very good player. So also not pictured here, but HT19 or Hector. I also another person on the team who I've played against a lot. Another good player. Yeah, our team is pretty stacked when it comes to Edison players. Also, we have very good modern players as well. Yeah, that's the team that I'm on. Outside of me playing, I'm also a judge. I tend to judge mostly Edison. However, I can judge modern too, and I mean I play modern from time to time, but it just doesn't scratch that itch that Edison does, and some other old formats. This is the event that I got top 4 at. Shout out to Jackson and Hector, who were, all three of the homies were together. Jackson obviously won this, and him and I could have been in the finals, but I suck. Also, Hero beat, really bad matchup for X-Saber, but yeah, we'll talk about that later. Yeah, this was the event. It was a lot of fun. And shout out to TGS. They run absolutely amazing events. The owners are both really good guys. Yeah. I've done some other events as well, but I don't have any infographics to show for those. So this is just what's going to have to do for right now. Yeah, okay. So we're going to go through my general side patterns against the top decks. So against Vayu, generally, my side pattern is and there are reasons for this. If I'm going second, I will side out of these because these are really only ever good going first against that deck, and side into these. You could also side into these as well, but I think at that point it's kind of maybe player preference, but you could even do some other funny things. Like if you really wanted to, you could side out of this and this, especially if you're getting closer to time, and side in these if you wanted to. But I think that mostly not needed. But yeah, they're going to side in D-Crows, and you're just going to tell them they're stupid. You're going to end on, Stardust Dragon because you open Sidra plus a tuner or whatever, plus Imperial Iron Wall, and they're just going to lose the game. And then you're going to back up that Cyber Dragon with one of these guys, and they're just not going to play the game. It's usually a pretty good plan. Next, we're going to go over Frog Hero. Generally, the things I cut, and you're going to notice a pattern. And it's pretty standard. I hate Giant Rat. We are not a stand of Giant Rat on this page. But yeah, we cut these. This is bad because Unifrog exists. These are bad because we're going to side into Imperial Iron Walls. MST is just kind of mid. The rest are actually not that bad. They're just better than MST. So, and they sometimes will side into more trap cards or other stuff. And the MST just isn't that very high impact. It can be good, but it's just the worst of the cards in our deck. Yeah, this is usually what I side. Unless something really weird is up. People people say I should side Kaiku, but I don't believe in that personally, because 2K defense higher than 18, quick math. Yeah, and also depending, regardless if you're going first or second, I still play 1-for-1 this and Jar, because they're just always going to have cards in hand, just always. So these are always just insane. Yeah, pretty easy. All right, next we're going to talk about Blackwing. So generally, my siding against Blackwing is... this is generally what I side against Blackwing. Ones again, they're gonna have deck heavy, so we side into generic deck heavy things. We side Royal Decrees because their trap cards are better than ours, and so we're just gonna play a total of 5 traps and hopefully, floodgate them out of the game. Prohibition is a card that is very multi-purpose. It depends on a lot of things. Like if they're going first, you can use it to name cards like Kalut. But if you're going second and you're like desperately scared of Icarus Attack, you can name Icarus Attack. But usually you probably would name Kalut. If you're a God gamer and you open one of all these cards, it's like a mostly unbeatable board from them. But yeah, this just helps you make Stardust Dragon. And Stardust Dragon plus Decree, it goes pretty hard. Same with Stardust Dragon Prohibition, because you can name Kalut, and then they just can never really get over the Stardust Dragon. And you don't have to attack with the Stardust Dragon, so their D prisons are going to be shut off. This card's just good against Whirlwind, and it beats over Ashura. And if you have this, naming Kalut plus this, then it runs it over. You feel pretty good about yourself. And then their Whirlwinds are shut off. The reason you cut the cards you do is because trap cards are pretty bad when you're siding into Decree. You side out of these because they're going to side into Crow, or at least 2 Crows usually. But you're not going to side into any of these cards really, so it's like you shave down on those. You can also do this where you cut 1 Avarice instead of one of these, but I'm more a fan of this, I think. This is kind of anti-synergy with the Thunder Kings. This is bad against trap decks. This is bad against Shura, respectively. Yeah, this is generally what I'm going to be siding against Blackwing. And it usually gets there. Yeah. Okay, next we're going to talk about some honorable mentions. Really, they're just decks I play against a lot, personally. Good examples are Fairy, Hero Beat, and Glad Beasts. I'm not going to get into the exact numbers of what exactly I side and don't side in those specific matchups. You could probably figure it out based on, my siding patterns for the big 3. But like against Glad Beasts and Fairy, Prohibition goes pretty hard. Because you could name Bestiari, or you can name Herald of the Orange Light, and those are the cards this deck has problems with. Also against decks like Glads, you can side into Decrees. Against decks like Fairies, you can side into the Imperial Iron Walls. You can side into Siders when going second or going first, respectively. Sometimes also going first as well, especially if you're scared of deck heavy. If it's a off meta deck that can use deck heavy. Yeah, these are good against Hero Beat. This is also good against Hero Beat because you'll be able to Prohibition Alias, and you shut off like 99% of their cards. Against Hero Beat, it's usually something like this. You could. There's also another axis I haven't tested enough, but you could also not side in these and side into these. But Miracle Fusion is just such a good card. I think that this card is so good. But it's debatable what you want to do there. Um, but yeah, I think Prohibition is way better than people give it credit for. And more people should be side decking this card, and specifically X-SABERS, because this card just solves a lot of problems that like no other card in the format can solve. Right now the only marginal side deck cards I think are the Iron Walls, or not the Iron Walls, the Light Imprisoned Mirrors. My apologies. But you could side these up for something else. But as of right now, this is what I'm siding. Okay, next we're gonna go over hypothetical cards you could play in the main or side, and I've labeled them in order of how much I respect them. In the main deck, I think there's only like maybe 2 or 3 cuttable cards. But like, could I see cutting a full Helm Knight for a Rhoda? I could, and I've tried it. There's just, when I did have it, the third full Helm came up, and I was sad I was playing a Rhoda. I could also see playing a Rhoda over something like the second Avarice or something maybe. Gores, I could see playing it over a Call the Haunted or a Morphing Jar. Trapped Sun, Starlit Road, and My Body's a Shield I could see playing over the second Avarice. The Giant Rat is a card you could probably play over a few different cards. Maybe the Avarice, maybe the Jar. I'm not sure. It's debatable. You could definitely play a Gotham's Emergency Call over like the one Call to Haunted. But those are like the flex spots in the main, I think. And I try to change these up every week to really get a good feel for what I like. You could also, if you wanted to, you could up the trap count and play, Bottomless Deep Prison. You could play. I've tried Reckless Upstart builds, and those are, funny, but Upstart's awkward because of a lot of problems. Just, the fact there are combos that are 8,000 exactly, and so giving your opponent 1,000 is pretty mid. You could play the 1-star or the 1 Swords of Revealing Light. I don't know how I feel about this card. Some people are more high than others, but I understand it. Scapegoat is interesting. I like it because, like, it's synchro fodder, and they're Earths for Gothams, which is, like, not irrelevant. And they can help you with weird synchro numbers, like being able to make things like Stardust Dragon and stuff. But you could play the Dust Shoot, I guess, but I don't really like. Does a Dust Shoot really do anything if you hand rip your opponent for anywhere from 4 to 6 cards or 4 to 5 cards or whatever? Atlan with the Sword is a card that Totegon enjoys, that I do not respect. It is really down on the list. I understand it. It's funny when it comes up, but it's awkward, especially against cards like Raikou. The Yada Jar stuff I think is cheeky and could be a thing you do, but I don't really believe in it, especially when you're drawing cards like Arabellum. But Enemy Controller I think is mid. It's just like worse Book of Moon, but yeah, whatever. Forbidden Chalice is really funny, but it's probably not good enough. It kind of fills a similar void to a card we'll talk about on the side, Phoenix Chain, but I respect it more than other things. There's people who've there's a guy named Lemur, I don't know his name, but he's been messing around with the Black Garden pile of this deck, and it's interesting. Opens up a lot of weird lines and kind of lets you live if you ever just need to like activate a Black Garden, but I don't necessarily think it's the right thing to be playing. That's the same reason he plays the Armageddonite, because if you Black Garden Armageddonite is another way to monk. But yeah, the Hamster Raikou Caius variant with like a second Regigura I actually don't hate, because like then like all your X-Saber recruiters get back a Regigura or get a Regigura then grabs back the recruiter, and then you contribute the Regigura on your turn for a Caius, and then like because you're playing Hamster Raikou, you have like 2 engines that support Caius. I don't hate that. I just think it's like extremely boring. and like you have less names, so like Fall Troll is less good most of the time. Obligatory Galahad Hate. This card is funny when it's good, but I don't believe in it personally. I've side decked it in the past, and it's been fine, but it's like good against exactly frogs. But I haven't like had a problem with frogs. So Card Strike is low key kind of goated, not gonna lie. But it is a card that gives us access to Stardust Dragon, which is like reasonable amount of the time. But again, I don't really believe in it. Gravity Bind I don't think is good. People play it, and I'm just like, what, are people going to purposefully put their monsters in defense mode for your Full Home Knight? I don't think they're going to do that. The third rat and like the Howling Insects and the Creature Swap and like the Axle and like a Card Trooper and like maybe some give and takes or something could be like a funny, cheeky like locals build, but I do not think it's actively that good. I've seen people do this where they play like Foolish Burial and like Plague, especially if they're on like this variant where they have the Armageddon Knights and Black Gardens and stuff, where they play these because it gives you access to Stardust Dragon. Yeah, I don't think it's that good. Whirlwind Weasel, low-key kind of goated if you're on Nimble Mega Hamster. It's just like a cold wave you get to search for. The fact that it's a wind is kind of awkward. Like if it was an earth, I'd like it a lot more, but it's kind of funny. Maybe a funny locals thing you could do. Good Goblin Housekeeping is it's like the worst of the draw traps, but like the fact that shovels in Arabellum is like not unreasonable. But yeah, I don't think it's that good. I don't like playing cards that are, a -1 and then net even and then a +1. I'm just, yeah. Onto the side deck. 2 Fiendish Chain is probably the 2 cards I would change out for the Lightning Imprisoning Mirrors currently. Shout out to Totagon for, proving this card is actually good in X-Saber. I could also see Pulling the Rug, and like Pulling the Rug is like the most, I don't know, good bad card in the side deck. Like you want your opponent to have the Monarch in play so you can like book it and then ram into it with a Full Helm Knight and then get back a guy and attack and make a synchro play or whatever. But like at the same time it like removes the guy, so it's like it saves you life points. But yeah, it's a choice between one of these 2 cards for sure. Grand Mole is a card I've cited in the past and I've liked a lot. When you're on multiple rat, I like it a lot more, so you have more access to it. It's just a generic good card. My Body's a Shield is again another card I have cited in the past. I've cited basically all these at one point or another. And you could play it in your side if you want to. But the fact it doesn't help with Herald some of the time because it only protects cards on field makes it a little awkward. So you can't like use it to protect Cat. So I don't like it in that specific scenario. The third Prohibition is it's looking mighty tempting as of recently. Been playing against a lot of fairies at my locals, and this card is just really good against fairy. Saber Slash is another card I've tried it a lot as well. I mean it's good. It outs basically everything. It's like Lightning Vortex but better usually. And at worst it's like a Smashing Ground most of the time. So it's a fine card. 1 Mind Crush, it's like Prohibition, where it's like insane in like the fairy matchup. It's also good against hero and stuff, but the fact that the rulings for this are wonky is a little sus. Fossil Dyna, great card. I've cited it in the past. I just think it's a little redundant. Like your opponent, like it's good when it's good some of the time, but it's kind of awkward. If there was like a way to, like if we had really big attackers that had more than 1800 attack, I would understand this more. More, I guess even in 2000 attack in some cases, because like I guess it's kind of fine to open with like Sidra or whatever. But the big thing is like this card is awkward aggressively, right? Yeah, there are some funny things you could do with it when you're on multiple rat, where you can like summon it and then set it with a book when they attack into it, and then feel giga-brained. Yeah. Nobleman is a card where I can understand it because, like, People are going to be playing Raikou decks, so siding this is like fine. It has some anti-synergy with some other cards in the side deck, so I don't like it as much, but I understand it. Nobleman, this card is, I think, underrated, especially in X-Saber side decks, just because like you can target a Bottomless or a Deep Prison, cards that your deck generically doesn't like, and you can just get rid of them all. DD Crow, it's like fine. You might be able to side this. It's a little awkward. It's good with Avarice, but it's like bad with some of our side deck cards. The Transmigration Prophecy. It's a good card. You could side it, but again, it has awkward synergies. Oppression, I think, is like a win more card. Usually, if you like full combo wombo and have an Oppression, like you've already won that game. Twister is a card you could side. I like it more than Dust because we're already on Decree. But it's just a card that stops cards like Skill Drain and stuff like that. Onto the extra deck, you could play a Hunley or Armory Arm, but like the second one of both of these has never come up for me. And if the second one has come up for me, I've usually been able to Avarice, put back the first one, and just do it again. Yeah, those are my my list of optional cards that I believe in X-Sabers. Yeah, that basically sums everything up, all my thoughts. If you guys have any thoughts or questions, throw them in the comments. A shout out to Totagon, shout out to Team on the Grind, both their YouTube channel and their TCGplayer account, which I'll link in the description. Thanks for listening to some guy ramble about some old pieces of cardboard. Hope y'all have a good one.